Hi everyone! Welcome to the week where we start programming in Python. Before we get to the actual programming part, I'm going to do some basic overviews of just what exactly do we even mean by programming in Python, and just define some terms that will come up if in this lecture, in this week and next week. But also just in general, if you decide to look into programming languages yourself, these are terms that you'll probably run into, so it's just really good to have a sense of what they actually mean and how to interpret them. So that's what we're going to do first. And basically, first of all, what is a program? Because we talk about programming languages, talk about writing programs, what does that even mean? Well, a program is a sequence of coded instructions that can be inserted into a mechanism such as a computer. Well, that's helpful, right? All right, so let's break that down a little bit and kind of go through the individual parts. So a sequence, basically when we say sequence for programming, really what we're telling you is that computers run or execute, I will use them interchangeably, programs from beginning to end. So they will do exactly what what you program them to do, and they're very, very literal. So basically they're kind of dumb. Which is honestly the part about programming that makes it the most difficult for people. If you've ever interacted with like a small child and you're like, okay, put on your shoes, we gotta go out, and the kid like puts the shoes on their hands and like, I'm so funny, and you're like, oh my god, no, it's not what you know that's not what I meant. The problem is that computers don't know that's not what you meant because they have no context for the world. The only thing they understand is ones and zeros, and your instructions to them, you're not going to be writing in ones and zeros. That would we've kind of moved beyond that, don't worry, but they don't have context for anything. So if you tell them, I need you to do this, they will try to do exactly what you say, and they have no way of knowing, oh, well, that doesn't actually make sense. Obviously what she meant to write was this instead. They'll just say, I don't know what to do, and they'll stop or they'll break. So one of the key things to understand about a program is they start at line 1 and they will go through to the end. There's a few things that make them jump around a little bit. We'll get to that not even this week, so don't worry about it. So main thing, they start at the beginning and they will do exactly what you tell them until they get to the end. And that's the sequence of a program. So next part of the definition was coded instruction. So basically computers can't read human language. Like I said, they do everything in ones and zeros. Now, programming languages, especially modern ones like Python, are designed so that humans don't have to actually type out ones and zeros. We type in something that's a little bit closer to our natural language that then gets translated for the computer into these instructions that basically into ones and zeros, eventually, that the computer can understand. So essentially, taking that initial definition and redefining it, what we're saying is that programs are sets of instructions that computers run in the order that they are received. So computers run the programs, and computers are very literal. So that's what a program is, just instructions the computer can understand. So what is Python? Python is a programming language that is high level, interpreted, and general purpose. All right. Let's break those down. So a high-level language is, well, basically what I said before. Computers don't understand human language, but some programming languages look closer to how humans write, and those are called high-level languages. Like I said before, ultimately computers only understand ones and zeros, but humans have developed ways of writing programs that we can understand more easily, and then we can process them so that they turn into something a computer can understand. So here's some sample Python code. Remember, this is the high-level language. So even if you've never seen code before, you can probably look at this and have a pretty good sense of what's going on and what's going to happen. So take a minute and look at this. Right. What do you think is going to happen? If you said something along the lines of, well, the computer's going to ask, what is your name? And then maybe somehow you're going to type something in so you can give it that feedback, and then it'll say, nice to meet you, and then say your name, you're correct. That's what's going to happen. So you can see how this is high level because it's it's not too hard to get a sense of what's going to happen. So yeah, it's you might not know exactly how to modify it or how to make it do something similar or exactly how this works, but you can look at it and be like, all right, yeah, I could see how that's gonna happen if you run this code. In contrast, here's what assembly code looks like, and assembly is considered a very low-level language. This is much harder to read. And actually, this is not doing exactly the same thing. All that this code is going to do is print hello world. So it's not even asking for a name and then going to greet you by name. It's just going to say hello world. That's it. This is a lot more code. It's a lot harder to read. It's a lot harder to learn. And we're not going to do that. So you're welcome. Another thing about Python is that it is interpreted. So programming languages are described as interpreted or compiled. So basically, a compiled language will go through 2 steps. So, well, I guess 3. First, you type up whatever it is that you want the program to do, and then you translate the code that you wrote into machine language. That's the compiling step, so that's why these languages are called compiled. And then the final step is you run the compiled code. So Java and C are examples of compiled languages where you type out code in Java, you compile it and create a file that is not Java, that is something else that the computer can understand more easily, and then that's actually what gets run. Interpreted languages, they're run directly without that intermediate step. They're still being converted into machine language, but they're kind of doing it as they go. So you don't have that extra step. So Python's just a little bit easier to get into for that reason too, because you don't remember, oh, I have to compile, then I have to run. You can just hit the button and it goes. So that's one of the reasons we picked it, because there's a little less to get tripped up on. And then Python is a general purpose language. So some programming languages are for very specific tasks. So for example, if you go on from this class and you take database, you will learn how to use SQL. In that language, there's many flavors and variations of it, but SQL languages are made for interacting with databases. That's it. Languages like Python, though, are more general purpose. They're not built for one thing specifically. They're built so that you can do lots of different things with them. So you can use Python on web servers, it's used for data science, it's used for natural language processing and artificial intelligence, but you can also use it to teach people really basic programming because it's not too hard to get into because it's that high level type of language. So we're teaching you something that if you go on and learn more Python, and we do offer more Python classes, it's a language that you can actually use in a lot of different contexts. So it's kind of generally useful, which is great. Not that SQL is not useful, because like I said, if you want to do stuff with database, you will pretty much have to do stuff with SQL. But this Python will give you just kind of a more broad set of things that you can do. Okay. So where does Python run? So some languages run only on web servers, so like PHP. Some languages are embedded in HTML pages and run in your browser, like JavaScript. Python can run on web servers, but we're not going to be doing that here because it's a little complicated and you already have some web stuff that you're doing. Python will run directly on your computer. So you're going to save files to your hard drive, not your Google Drive. I mean, if you want to back files up on your Google Drive, that's fine. I encourage that, but you can't run them from your Google Drive. You have to have the file saved somewhere on your computer, like on your desktop or in your documents folder. They have to be on your actual laptop. And then they will be run from your hard drive. So everything is being run, as we say, locally. So what's next basically is we have some checkpoint questions for you, and there are instructions for installing Python on Moodle. So make sure you follow those instructions before you go to the next set of lectures because you want to have Python set up and ready to go. The instructions really aren't too hard to follow. Definitely, though, ask if you get stuck, and enjoy.